All right. Welcome to the Insurance 101 call. This is the call where we teach everything basic about insurance 101. And if you are not hitting 5 families a week, you should be on this call. Our goal is to get you doing 20 families a month. And this call is all the basic training that you need to learn to set appointments, learn to do a one-call close, do an in-home, whatever you need to do. That's what this call is about. So this call, on this particular call, we're going to get into follow-ups before we do some role play. There's not anyone better in my career of doing this, of doing follow-ups, than my good friend and buddy, Dustin. So I wanted to bring him on, kind of go over a few things with follow-up, some of the things that he says, some of the things that he does in order to, sorry guys, some of the things that he says, some of the things that he does to kind of help people to do that follow-up call, to schedule the appointment for a follow-up call. And then what does he say when he gets on the phone with that person to close them on that follow-up call? I wanted to bring him on because he's very, very good at it, and he's one of the best that I know. So Dustin, if you can unmute.
Hey there, Sean. How you doing, bud?
Pretty darn good. Thanks for coming on with me here. First of all, I know you've been in this business just a little bit longer than I have. So if you can kind of share with them your backstory, where you came from, what brought you to Family First Life, and what
Sure.
you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, first of all. So I've been with Family First Life almost 2 years now. And I came from a bartending background, so no experience selling any kind of insurance. I had done some other random sales jobs in the past. So, I'm familiar with speaking with people and stuff like that. But as far as insurance goes, I had no clue about how to do any of that. And insurance sales, especially, no clue. But like I said, I've been doing it now for about 2 years. It was just something I was kind of interested in, and a mutual friend of mine hooked me up with a guy, and just kind of slid in with FFL because once I heard about the commission structure and, the freedom that you get and the time that you can, spend doing this and kind of controlling your life and making a good income while doing it, seemed like a no-brainer to me. So bartender from Maine, and now I currently live down in South Carolina. And I love doing this because I just love being able to have that full control over my lifestyle and my schedule. And if I need to take time off, I can. I prefer not to, but if anything comes about and you have to, you can do that. It's really just about how hard you want to work, and it's about how much effort and time you can put into this will determine the success that you have in this industry. So the more effort you put in, the more phone calls you make, and the more families you try to protect is all up to you. And I liked that. I really like that. I like the idea of not working for somebody, clocking in and out, and having to, listen to somebody above me that maybe I necessarily don't want to. I liked the control of kind of just being able to be my own boss, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dustin, I know from working with you, your experience in this is very short-lived. I mean, you've been in it for 2 years. You don't come from a sales background, right? And you
Right.
are consistently helping anywhere from 1 to 2 families a day on average, right?
Yeah. Usually. I mean, that's always kind of my goal, Sean, is like when I'm working and I'm going at it full force, I feel like, man, I can't end my day without at least helping just one family. Like that's always kind of the goal. I mean, but anything more than that is obviously a bonus, but I kind of go by the rule of, you try to shoot for 10 families a week, which is between 1 and 2 families a day, if you think about it. So yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable goal. And, I always just try to strive for that. I mean, if you can get at least one a day, in my opinion, that's one family protected. That's a successful day, and it might be the first call of your day. It's happened to me like that. It might be the very last call of your day at, 9 o'clock at night. And you might have been dialing all day. You might want to give up, but it could be that very last phone call that you make that you help that family out and get them covered and, and make a good living for yourself too.
Yeah. And I know a lot of times it is that last call of the day, right? It's that last one when you're done, you're just spent. And all of a sudden that last call of the day is like, yep, I need life insurance. Help me out. I'm glad you called, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I saw a question pop up down there. I'll address that really quick. Somebody asked if I only do telesales. That's currently what I'm doing now. But I will say that when I first came into the industry, when I first started, I actually exclusively did all in-home. I think that was helpful to developing kind of the psychology of being face-to-face with people and just kind of seeing how the application process works and how sort of it is really like out in the field, in home, talking to these families in person, you really kind of get an emotional attachment in a weird way. So I think starting in home is kind of a good idea. And even if it's short-lived, but now I only do telesales and I find that to be a little bit more effective and efficient for me because now I cut out all this extra travel time and gas money spending. I don't do that anymore. I'm just from home. And I feel like it's easier to start out in the home because you can really kind of feel out how the presentation is. And when I first started going in home, I'll tell you this. I mean, when I first started doing telesales, I actually would, when I was nervous, from like thinking, oh God, how am I going to do this telesale? I would just close my eyes on the phone, pretend like I was sitting right there at their dinner table with them and pretend like I was looking right across at them at the dinner table and do my presentation just like I would do it at home. I would just imagine I was there. And that's how I approached my telesales. And there's not a ton different to it. If you approach it the same way you would approach an in-home, then it still should work out the same way. If as long as your posture and your tone is right, you should be able to make it happen.
Now, do you focus more on setting the appointments, Dustin, or do you focus more on doing one call closes, and why?
Yeah. So when I first started doing telesales, I started focusing at first, and everything's been trial and error. And that's how it's going to be for everybody in this industry. Everything is trial and error because everybody has their own powers, their own abilities, their own comfort zones, and their own techniques and stuff. So I will say not the same thing that works for me might work for Sean. The same things that work for Sean might not work for me because we might have a little bit different of a style, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same, right? For me, I used to set appointments, but I did notice that when you set appointments on the phone, for me anyway, it's easier for them just to not answer for that set appointment. So I totally went the other way and I went straight in for a one call close. And I love the one call close personally, because if you think about it, when you get that lead in, especially if you're buying fresh leads, fresh final expense, Facebook final expense leads, or even just regular term people, when you have them on the phone, especially if you just got the lead and it's fresh on their mind too. So when you have them in that moment and you have them right there and you can keep the flow going properly, there's no reason why you shouldn't just close the deal right there. They're already in the mood to talk about this. Don't let them double think it. Don't let them fall out of the mood. They're in the mood to talk about that now. So my goal is just to protect families, get you covered. I don't want, unless you need me to schedule an appointment with you, I always ask them right away. I say, do you got about 10, 15 minutes to chat with me and we can see what we can find, what we can do for you? And most of the time they'll say yes. And even though in your mind, the call is going to go maybe 30, 40 minutes, they don't care. Once you have them engaged, they are going to listen to you. And if they're serious and they really want the coverage and they actually want to protect their families, they're going to be willing to do the deal with you right then and there. And I promise you that. You got to approach it. I always tell everybody this. You just got to approach it very calm, cool, relaxed, chill, laid back. People like to hear your voice chilled, laid back. You don't want to sound too aggressive because people don't like that, especially over the phone where they don't see your face, where they don't see you personally. So I've learned to keep my tone very calm, very relaxed. Like I almost give the vibe that I don't need this business. I don't need you to do business with me. That's kind of the vibe you almost want to give them. Like, you don't have to do this. This is not this is your family that you're protecting. I'm just facilitating this for you to help you make this happen. But if you give off the vibe, like, listen, I don't care if I get this sale or not, but I do care enough to try to get this done with you, they'll appreciate that. So that's kind of how I approach that, Sean.
Yeah, you kind of take it away and then give it back to them, right? You take it away so they can't have it, and then you give it back. And it's like kind of like that cat and mouse thing, right? Where you pull
Absolutely.
the string and the cat comes after it, right? Well, once you stop the string, the cat stops. You start to pull the string again, and then all of a sudden the cat just attacks the string, right? It's kind of the same concept. So Dustin, in a one-call close, they don't always go perfectly where you go and you can close that sale and help that family on that one call. Not every single time. It does happen, no. And it happens a lot, right? But obviously, if it doesn't happen, let's say you get in the middle of the app and you find out, oh, well, this lady's at the grocery store. She can't finish the appointment, or she's in a doctor's appointment and she just got called into the doctor, or she's got to run out to go pick her kids up from school. Nothing is ever perfect, right? But we just do the best we can. Obviously, you got to set that appointment. So kind of tell me how that structure works for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they tell me they absolutely can't talk right then and there at that moment, when I say, hey, do you got 10 or 15 minutes to chat about this? And they just say, no, I'm in the store, I'm driving, I'm on the road, I'm heading to whatever their excuse, I'm going to the doctor's. I say, all right, no problem. Obviously I was just trying to get to this as soon as I could because, I get hundreds of these forms in every day, and it's hard for me to get back around to them sometimes in a timely fashion. So you kind of build that urgency with them. Like, you're busy too. It's not all about you. They're not your only client. You're a busy person too. So, but you tell them, okay, no problem. So let me ask you, what's the best time for me to call you back generally? I could probably give you a call back today in a few hours if you think you're going to be home. Just then pause, just let them answer. They'll either say, no, today won't work, or they'll say, yes, it does. Okay, let's say they say it does. Say, okay, so I only really have a 7 p.m. available, or possibly 7:30. And even if that's not true, like I said, you want them to understand, listen, like, your time is valuable too, just as valuable as theirs. So I give them a couple options, and they'll say, oh, yeah, usually they'll tell you, yeah, one of those will work, right? In most cases. If they say no, I tell them, okay, well, let me take a look. And if anybody else cancels or has to reschedule, I'll try to fit you in. But let's just say they go, okay, 7 o'clock works. Okay, perfect. So when I call you today at 7 p.m., you'll definitely be available, and you'll be able to have a pen and paper to write some things down and take some notes, because I'm going to go through all of this in thorough detail with you. They'll say, yep, okay, all right. So 7 p.m., I'm going to put you down. Just please make sure you have your phone on ring, because I'm going to probably have other people that want this 7 o'clock time slot, and I'm going to tell them no. So I'm going to keep this specially for you because you're telling me that that's good for you, right? They'll say, yeah, 7's fine. And then I'll say, okay, perfect. So sounds good. I'm going to call you back at 7. And if you guys can hear, I just keep saying 7, 7, 7. I say it I'll say it to them like 5 times, just to nail it into their head, especially if they're out at the store driving. Maybe they're not fully paying attention. So I'll nail it into their head by saying, okay, yep, all right, perfect. That's 7. And then right before I hang up the phone, all right, awesome, Mary, I'll talk to you tonight at 7. So make sure you got that pen and paper handy, and we'll get you and your family taken care of. Okay. Okay. So that's kind of how I do it. If they can't, be available right when I first call them, which is how I, nowadays, how I like to do my calls, is just try to close it right then and there.
Right. But notice, guys, I want to kind of point out what he did. When he went to set that appointment, he gave him a couple of choices, right? 7, 7:30. But when he goes to set the appointment, he nails it down by making sure that, look, you're definitely going to be there, right? I'm taking this appointment away from somebody else. Somebody else wants this appointment. And so I'm going to tell them no. And he's getting commitments along the way. He's getting them to say, yes, 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 I'm going to be there, right? So they understand that it's important. And of course, if something happens and they can't make that appointment, then what happens, Dustin?
So if they can't make that appointment for that night, I'll go to my next option. If they tell me no, I'll say, okay, well, I do have some availability tomorrow. What generally works for you during the day, a morning, noon, or night? And they'll answer me. Usually the mornings. Okay, and I'll do the same method. I'll say, okay, tomorrow morning looks like I have a 9:30 and a 10:30 available. Do either of those work for you? And if they say no to that, then I say, okay, well, then we might need to push it out a little bit later and to 11:30 or something like that, or I'll go, I always go back to, if I have to backpedal, I'll say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, if somebody cancels or has to reschedule with me tomorrow at any other of those times, I'll just try to give you a call. But same thing, if they tell you no, you just try to find the solution, try to find the time. So, okay, how about tomorrow, Mary? What time of day normally works best for you, just in general? Mornings, noon, or night? What are you normally available? And then, morning. Okay, this is what I have. Let her choose what she likes best. And you kind of let them direct themselves, because you first of all, you try to get them in a time block, morning, noon, or night. So they're telling you what time of day they're normally available. And then you give them a couple options so they understand you're a busy person too. And I'll say the same exact thing. I'll say, okay, 10:30, Mary. All right, I'm putting you down for 10:30 on my schedule. And I don't know if any of you guys use anything like Ringy or TurboText or any of those things, but those are nice sometimes. I just do everything manually usually, and I'll send them a confirmation text message after they confirm, right? So let's say Mary says, yeah, 9:30 tomorrow. Right when we hang up, I'll say the same thing to her. Okay, Mary, this 9:30 slot is yours. I'm not giving it to anybody else. So anybody else who asks for 9:30, Mary, you have it. I'm not going to give it to anybody else. And you're going to get a confirmation text shortly after we hang up here with the exact time and date and everything. And then I usually set my phone alarm for like 9:15, and I'll send them or 9:50, and I'll send them a 10-minute reminder sometimes. And it will just say something as simple as, hi, Mary, this is a friendly reminder about our insurance appointment in 10 minutes. I'll be calling you shortly. Look forward to talking with you and helping you out. And you don't have to do that if you don't want. I do it because sometimes if you don't do it, some people like it. And then if you don't do it, sometimes people will forget. And that's why you try to drill it in to their heads. You repeat the time, 9:30, right, Mary? Okay, perfect. I look forward to talking to you at 9:30. And you keep repeating it. So that's how I do it. That's sort of my rebuttal there.
So I have found that, if you're going to send a text message reminder, if you do a half an hour, that's way too early. And a lot of times they'll reach back out and say, no, I can't do that. But if you do 15 minutes or 10 minutes before, then usually they're there every single time. You're just giving them a reminder. And because it's right within that time window, they're like, oh yeah, I got to get ready for that appointment. And then they're there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Why I do like 10, usually it's like 10 minutes before. I'll just write, hi, Mary, friendly reminder. I'll be calling you for that insurance appointment in 10 minutes. I really look forward to helping you out and talking with you, something like that. You can kind of word it however you want, but something along those lines is how I do it. And usually they'll reply to the text and just say, okay. And if they do say, I can't, sorry, I can't, then I'll text them, okay, well, if you can at least talk to me within that next half hour, because I gave up that whole time slot just for you and I passed up 2 other people, you kind of give them that, because you've already told them that on the phone, so, we all kind of, I would say everybody in this room probably finds it pretty annoying and rude if people commit to something with you and then just don't show up or cancel on you last minute, because the truth is you could have put somebody else in that time slot that would have probably showed up. You could have, so that's the thing, is that you could have given somebody else that 9:30, and that's how you have to think about it. So, then you let them know. Yeah, I just tell her, okay, well, sometimes I don't reply if they say cancel. I'll just call them anyway, like as if I didn't read their reply. Sometimes I'll just still give them a call. And I've actually done that and gotten them to answer and just kind of got the ball rolling. Not saying it works every time, but I have done it.
Worth a shot.
It's always worth the shot. I would say no matter what, if they reply like, no, never mind, or cancel, don't let them get off that easy, because, that's why I love the one call close personally, is because once they're in the mindset and they're in that zone and they're in that mood to talk about this topic. That's why I take advantage of it right then and there. And take advantage meaning I want to put my best foot forward to help them right then and there before they start thinking about it. Oh, is this really worth it? No, you've been thinking about it for a lot longer than just now, because you're filling out forms online saying you want this stuff. So
yeah,
that's,
One thing I did want to point out, guys, is if you notice, Dustin said he does all of this manually. You don't need a CRM to get started. You don't need Zepo. You don't need any fancy tools or anything like that. You can all do this from your phone. And Dustin sells about 1 to 2 policies a day, or helps 1 to 2 families a day. And he makes a really, really good living doing this. So Dustin, from there, I just want to kind of transition into the presentation, right? You get a lot of when you do a presentation, you get a lot of sales. I noticed just from looking at the Discord app, you'll always post a sale in there and you'll say second follow-up or third follow-up, right?
Yeah.
So take us through that presentation and what that client says to get you to not fill out the rest of the application right then and there, but to set an appointment to follow up, or maybe you don't set an appointment to follow up. And I don't know, do you follow up 2 to 3 days later? Take us through that. Let us know what that is all about there.
Yeah. So I'll kind of go through this with you guys from top to bottom in like a sort of way that is concise and not like, let's pretend there's not really too many objections, right? So I'll just be like, hello, Mary. Yep, that's Mary. Okay. Hey, Mary. My name is Dustin Bouchard. I'm the senior underwriting manager here in Greenville County, and I just received that request form that you filled out on Facebook. It looks like looking for some affordable final expense burial or cremation coverage. And I see here that you put down your beneficiary's name as Barbara, and your favorite hobby seems to be gardening. Is that all correct? Yeah, that's right. Okay. Also, you put down that your date of birth is January 1st, 1952, and your email I see is mary@gmail.com. Is that also correct, Mary? Yep, that's all right. So if you guys are getting leads, use all the info you see on that lead and say it to them pretty quick so you have their attention. Like, okay, this person clearly got something that I filled out because he got a lot of my info there. And so if you're getting leads, every bit of info on there, you want to kind of say it to them right away to really capture their attention. Then I'll say, all right, great. Do you have about 15 minutes to run through this information with me? And she'll, most times, a lot of times, I'll say 70% of the time, they'll say yes. Okay, perfect. If you don't mind, go grab a pen and a piece of paper if you can really quick so I can give you some of my personal information just for your records and documentation. I'm just required to give you this by, my full name and license number by the state. That way, you know that I'm licensed to do this and I'm legitimate. Okay, perfect. They'll get the pen and paper. I'll give them my name and my license number. All right. So, Mary, all of this is non-medical. That just means there won't be any doctor visits, blood work, or physical exams that you're required to go do to be approved for any kind of coverage. We just have to go through some of that information together, and I kind of have to do a little bit of my own underwriting for you because I work with about 20 different companies, Mary, okay? That I'm an independent broker licensed directly through the state. Okay, so I want to make sure that whatever carrier I get you with is going to give you the best possible price for the most amount of coverage, and you're actually going to get approved. Okay, so basically, I'm just trying to find the program and the carrier that's best going to suit you. And obviously, I want to find something that is affordable to you and is gonna serve the need that you want. And so, what were you looking for? Were you looking for a permanent policy that would cover a traditional burial, or were you just looking for some cremation coverage? Traditional burial. Okay, Mary. So traditionally, burial costs in this state go between, we'll say, about 10 and 15,000 on the low to middle end. And funerals can get as high as about 20,000, just depends on how many bells and whistles you're looking for. But if you're just looking for your normal funeral, the traditional style, it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 15. And I assume that you don't want your daughter Barbara to have to come out of her own personal savings account for that. Is that why you filled this out? Yeah, that's why I filled this out. Okay, perfect. So let's get kind of going here. And I'm just going to gather some information from you. But I don't need all of it at this exact moment, but I do want to let you know up front, Mary, just to make sure that we can see if you actually can qualify, no matter if it be with me today or with somebody else tomorrow. Any insurance company or carrier legally is going to need you to provide 3 really important pieces of information on the application to see if we can get you qualified. First one, usually being a driver's license or a state ID. This is just to make sure you are who you say you are and you're not on the run from the police or something. And usually they'll start laughing. And I'll say, and some of the carriers don't actually even require the state ID, but if you have it, that'd be better. The second piece of information that we need, Mary, is the Social Security number, and that's to check your prescription records, do the HIPAA authorization. That's the Privacy Act saying that we're not allowed to give your information out to anybody except the carrier and your licensed physician. And it also helps in identifying your beneficiary, your daughter Barbara in this case, so the money gets to the right person if you pass away. So that's the reason we need that. And then most importantly, before we can submit anything at all, Mary, we need a good financial institution on file to make sure that, first of all, there's no money laundering or insurance fraud happening. And then once you're approved, we want to make sure that this policy is placed in force. So if anything happens to you, your daughter Barbara gets that money right away. So before we proceed any further, are you fully capable and able to make your own financial decisions on your own, or do you need permission from anybody else to proceed in a process like this? Sometimes they get a little snappy and like, I don't need permission to do anything with my money. And that's kind of a psychology thing there. When you say that to them, they're like, oh, he's asking me if I'm allowed to do things with my money. And then they're like, they're going to give you the bank info because they want to show you that they have control of their money. It's kind of a funny reverse psychology thing. But that's my whole entire, in a very quick kind of sped up way, that's my whole entire intro. Right when I get them on the phone, what you guys just heard me say is everything I say. And then once they answer that last question, I tell them I need the driver's license, the social. Remember, I explained to them why I need that, the social. This is to do your prescription check, your HIPAA authorization, also helps in identifying your beneficiary if you pass away, so the money gets to the correct person. And then I say, and most importantly, we need a good financial institution on file. Make sure there's no money laundering or insurance fraud. And once you're approved, we want to make sure that this policy is actually placed in force. So you let them know that, and then that little part at the end is just kind of gets them kind of going, and they're like, yeah, I can give you all this information. Like, that's my info. Nobody controls me, kind of deal. I feel like that's kind of how they take it. So I usually just say, okay, so you fully understand the 3 pieces of information I need from you today. If we find a good policy that you're happy about and sounds, like it fits your needs, to submit this request for coverage, because at the end of the day, I'm not the one who actually gets to choose whether or not you're approved. It's going to be up to the carrier. So how this works is we're going to submit a application a request form for you today to whatever carrier we find, and they're going to get back to us in about 2 to 7 business days and let us know whether or not you were approved. In a very rare occasion, Mary, you might get approved right on the spot, but that doesn't usually happen. And the reason I say that part to them right there is because if they do get approved on the spot, you can make them feel really good about themselves. Like, if they get approved right then and there, you told them at the beginning of the call, like, it's very rare for somebody to get approved on the spot. So when they do get approved on the spot, you can be like, Mary, I have really good news. How I mentioned that, not a lot of people get approved right away. It usually takes 2 to 7 days. It looks like you got through the prescription check with flying colors, and this carrier actually we'll just say Mutual of Omaha or Americo. They actually just approved you right here on the spot. So the good news is, Mary, is that you got coverage, and we don't need to wait that 2 to 7 days. And a lot of times, Mary or whoever will be like, "Oh, that's great." It makes them feel good about themselves. But the truth is, a lot of times it does need to go to underwriting because they might have those medications and stuff. So you just want to let them know that most likely you're not going to know for 2 to 7 days if they're going to be approved. But on very rare occasions, Mary, you might get approved on the spot, but that's very rare. So that way, when they do go to underwriting, that's what they were more expecting anyway. And if they're approved, it's like the golden ticket. So that's kind of how I do that, Sean.
So Dustin, let me ask you this. You're doing a 1-call close and somebody is in the grocery store. Let's not say grocery store. Let's say they're driving, right? They go to pick up their kid from school and you're at the banking information, and you're about ready to put in the banking information, and they say, you know what, I don't have it.
Yep, happens, honestly. Yeah,
and then
happens.
all of a sudden you ask them if they're going to be home later, and they say yes, but I'm going to be busy. Or maybe you call them back and they no show. What's the next step from there, Dustin?
Yeah, so basically what I'll do in that case, and it does happen a fair amount, I would say. What I would do in that situation is I'd say, okay, no problem. That's kind of why I mentioned that we would need the banking stuff right at the beginning, just so you would be aware, and it's okay that you don't have it. And then I'll try to set an appointment with them, of course, naturally. Okay, when's a better time to call you back? Let's say they give me a time, but they no-show me, and now I can't get them back on the phone. What I do is a day or two later, I'll usually send them a follow-up text message that says, hey, Mary, just wanted to touch base. I just finally had some time to get back around to your file. And I know you wanted to get that protection for your daughter, Barbara, that coverage for your burial. And we have the form pretty much filled out. It's not going to take us but 5 minutes or less to wrap this thing up and get that, the approval process going for you. And this is all in a text usually. I'll usually text it so they can read it. And I'll say, so is there any time maybe today or tomorrow that you'll be available for just 5 quick minutes and we can wrap this thing up for you? I know how important it was to you, and I just want to make sure that we get this taken care of before the application expires, or before you might go to a doctor appointment and get a new prescription that might end up getting you denied. And sometimes they'll reply to the text, sometimes they won't. Then what I do, let's say they don't reply to the text. So then what I do is another day or two later. So now we're going on 3 or 4 days after that appointment. I'll just send out a quick text, and I'll say, basically something along the lines of, hi, Mary. So I'll just basically, I'll say it like this. I'll be like, so I'll take the silence as a sign that you're no longer interested in submitting this application, ? If you are, I'm going to keep this file open for a little bit longer for you, but I don't want to keep your personal information floating around out there in cyberspace. If we're not going to submit the application, I'd rather delete the file for you. So just any response would be greatly appreciated. Even if you don't want to do it, just let me know so I can get all of your personal information out of our system and delete that permanently for your protection. That usually gets their attention. Yeah. And that usually gets their attention on that text. And because they're, at the end of the day, they don't want their personal information all out there as much as in this world with cybersecurity and people's info getting out there like that. That's just another thing that they don't want. So that will at least usually evoke some kind of response out of them. And I prefer that. Like if you're just blowing me off because you don't want to do it, just tell me. And I'd rather not bother you anymore. I'd rather not keep calling you. Trust me. I don't want to call you every day. I don't want to call you every 2 days. I'd rather call other people that really want this, like if you don't want it, you don't want it, but just tell me, let me know. And then I'll stop bothering you, and you won't need to answer all, what do you want? And I don't like when people do that. So I just basically
the personal information thing gets people to respond almost every time.
Yep. I would say 8 to 9, 10 out of times it'll be that when I say, listen, just please, any response would be appreciated, because I don't want to leave your application open with all your personal information just floating around out there, because that's why sometimes I'll even add in, that's why we had you sign the HIPAA form, so we could get this application directly into the carrier real quick, because they're the only ones who need to be seeing this. I don't want, your information just floating out there unsecured, basically, is what I tell them. And I say, so any response, yes or no, would be greatly appreciated, Mary. And then, so usually this is how I do it with the text messaging, actually. Sorry, let me backtrack one step. Usually I will actually try to call them first. I do try to call them once, just one time, like maybe a day or two later. And then if they don't answer, that's when I send that first text, like, hey, that's the follow-up. Hey, just want to see if you want to wrap this up. Shouldn't take but 5 minutes. We're on that last page. If they don't respond, a day or two later, I'll call them again. and say, and then, if they don't answer, then that's when I send that text about their personal information. I don't want to leave your application open with all your personal info on there floating around unsecured. Please just respond. And even if you don't want to do this anymore, I want to make sure that we delete your personal info, basically, and you guys can word that kind of how you want, how you feel comfortable saying it, but that's the idea. Yeah.
So a phone call. So literally you wait 2 to 3 days after the appointment.
Usually no more than two. No more than two.
So 2 days, and then a phone call. They don't answer. Shoot them a text.
That first text. Yeah.
No response. The next day, another phone call. Shoot them that text about their personal information.
Just floating around, and we don't want that for them. And
then what happens after that?
Okay. So then finally after that, I'll do one more call. And I call it my 5-day rule. Basically, it's basically my 5-day rule. If I don't hear back, if we got all the way to the bank info, we were like that far into it, and I don't hear back from you for 5 days, I finally send my final text message, and I say, "Hi, Mary. So it's clear that I can't get in touch with you. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe with your phone service. I hope nothing is wrong. I hope you're okay." Kind of do that. And then I say, "But unfortunately, I'm going to have to go ahead and delete your file permanently, just for security purposes. And I can't guarantee that I'll be able to get you that rate again, because we did our research that day. And if anything happens to you from here on out, I can't promise to get you that price. But for now, I'm going to have to go ahead and delete your file permanently. And I won't continue trying to reach out. If you change your mind and you still want to get that coverage to protect and I'll mention I always mention the beneficiary, like every time, because it makes them remember why they were doing it in the first place. So I'll say, if you decide that you want to finish that application, call me today. But if I don't hear back from you by the end of today, I'm going to delete it permanently. And we'll have to start all over from the beginning. And I can't guarantee that I'll be able to get you approved or even necessarily the same rate, because we're going to have to go through all those questions all over again. If you have, and I'll just let them know if you have a new medication, it's kind of a longer text. That last one's kind of a longer one, like letting them know, hey, listen, I can't really help you at this point because you're not answering, you're not responding. So that last one's more of just like that one I get a bunch of response to, honestly, like that final one, because they're like, oh, we're going to lose this, and that's what I tell them. I say, we're going to lose this permanently. We're going to have to go through the whole process again, is what I say. So if you can reach out to me by the end of today, we can get this covered so your daughter doesn't need to worry about coming out of her own bank account for $15,000 if you were to pass away. And that was the whole purpose. So I'll say, appreciate your time. And basically that's kind of how I do it. It's like a 5-day rule and a 3-call, 3-text rule that I do. It's not a rule, but it's just a way I do it.
A system.
Thank you. That was the right word, system. It's just a 5-day, 3-call, 3-text system I use. And by that last one, it's kind of just one of those deals like, hey, I'm sorry, but we're losing this. We're going to lose this application. I haven't heard back from you, and I can't keep your info floating around. So if you do decide to do this, we're going to have to go through every step all over again. Basically.
Now, Dustin, out of those people that you have to follow up with, about what's a good percentage of them that get back on the phone and you actually write the application?
I'd honestly say probably 7 out of 10. By when it's said and done, out of 10 people that I do that with, where I have to do the 5-day, 3-text system, I would say doesn't matter what stage of the system it is. I'd say in that period of 5 days, I would say about 6 to 7 out of 10 will get back with me. So 60 to 70% of them will get back with me, and either call me back or we'll answer my text and say, hey, call me today at 2 or whatever. Like they'll reply, because a lot of people will reply to your text too.
Yeah.
A lot of people will respond by a way of texting you back. And then they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry, something came up. And then you just get to the point where I've had people that honestly have texted me back a month later and responded to a text that I sent them, like that final one. They're like, oh, Dustin, I'm so sorry. I really want to do this. a bunch of stuff came up, and I meant to get back with you, yada yada, and I'll basically just say, okay, listen. Like I mentioned, we're going to have to kind of go through everything again, because now I don't know if you've been to a doctor in this past month. I don't know if you have a new prescription. We're going to have to kind of go through this again. I have some of your basic info still here, but I don't have all your, I didn't keep all your personal info, and I don't remember all of your, if it's like a month later, but you'll be surprised. A lot of people will reach back out to you. And then finally, last but not least, I always keep a list in my computer on like a spreadsheet of the people that I had to the bank info. I always put it in the notes, had at bank info. And if I run out of leads, or I don't want to buy new leads right now, just for whatever reason, if I just don't want to buy new leads right now, what I do is I have a whole list of people that I got to the bank info, and it was like a month or two previous. And I will even dive in and call them back like a month or two later. And it's almost like calling a fresh lead, but you already got them to the bank info once. So you had like the whole application filled out for them. So sometimes I'll call them back. Like if I've ran through, if let's say all my new leads just came in, like finished coming in that day, or that couple days, and I was just getting no answers or whatever. That's when sometimes I'll go back a month or two and find the people I put in the notes, had at bank info, and I'll call them back. And I've gotten a ton of people covered by doing that, by calling, but I do my 5-day system first, and then I'll leave them alone for like a month or two. And then if you get back to them a month or two later, sometimes you catch them on the right day where they're back in that mood. They're back in that mood. They're back in that mode, so.
Yeah. That's awesome, Dustin. So I want to preface this, guys, because I want to make sure you guys completely understand. It's not like you go to the banking info. If they say no, then all of a sudden you're going to reschedule the appointment. No, you definitely, if you're on a one-call close or a telesale, you definitely want to get the banking info right then and there if you possibly can. This situation are rare situations to where they're driving down the road. They don't have time to pull over. They're talking to you. You're doing a one-call close or a telesale, and they're just in a bad appointment or a bad situation where they don't have the banking account information, or maybe they're an older person, elderly. They don't have a check. They don't know their banking information. They don't know how to use the app, and they have to call their bank or something like that to get it. In those rare situations, that's when you want to definitely do this system that Dustin is going through. This is an awesome system, Dustin. I know we're kind of running a little bit over time, and you have an appointment. You actually have a follow-up appointment right now.
I actually do have a follow-up appointment, but I did text them and ask them if I could get to them a half hour late, and they said yes. So I'm good. I'm good for another 15 minutes. So there's a good example. These were actually people I spoke to a month ago, or maybe not quite a month. It might have been just like a few weeks ago, close enough though. And they texted me back today randomly and said, "Hey, Dustin, sorry, we weren't able to reconnect, but I'm ready to, I need to get," she actually said, "I need to get that coverage," which is not a great sign. It probably means she went to the doctor and found out maybe some bad news, but nonetheless, you
still got the appointment.
I got the appointment, and all I had left with her was her banking info. That's usually where it gets hung up. And that's why it's so important, if you want to try doing the one call closing, is in the beginning of the call, before you even start bothering wasting an hour of your time, you tell them up front that you need the license, the social, and the bank info. That's what you need. That's what's required if you want to be covered. That's what the carriers are going to need, every single one of them. There's no carrier out there that can accept an application without valid bank information or your social on it, because this is just the process. Like, you want to be covered, they need to know who you are and that you're able to pay for it, right? So you want to explain that to them in the nicest way possible. But I just avoid that objection, because I used to do it where I didn't say anything at all, and I would just get to the bank info and kind of spring it on them. And sometimes that would work for me. It would just depend on how I sounded that day. Because when you ask for their bank info, it's like, you don't want to sound weird either. You don't want to be like, all right, I need that bank info. Like, you don't want to say it and sound like
you want to come
unprofessional.
with power.
Yeah, you want to say it like
Confident.
it's just, this is just part of the process. This is, you know, like, and I've had
no big deal.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Drake, do I use my personal cell? I actually started doing that recently, just using my personal cell for everything, because my burner app just kept messing up on me, honestly. But I do use a burner app sometimes. But lately I've been actually testing out just using my personal cell phone. It's actually been working pretty well. So yeah, I would say, you know, because if you use the burner app, first of all, your number might start coming up as spam or scam, whichever one. They're the same thing. And you know, then that you might just never, you might lose that person just based on that, you know. But I would say the burner app is a pretty good app. I mean, I've had a lot of success with it too. So it just depends, you know. I have started experimenting with just using my own personal number, and that's actually been working out fine. So yeah, I would say, you know, yeah. Oh, okay. You're talking about phone burner. I'm actually talking about the burner app, not phone burner. I don't do the power dialing either. I just don't. I hand dial. I know to some people that sounds crazy, but I just hand dial every single person. And that's just how I do it. So phone burner is great, but I don't know. I guess I'm old school in that sense. I hand dial everybody, and that's how I do it.
Awesome. Awesome.
It takes me all of 6 seconds to dial a phone number. So, I mean, and then once you get it in once, you can hit call again, and it just calls them again. So, you know, but phone burner is great. If you use it, good. You know, if you like it that way, I assume I can hand dial, and it doesn't take me that much longer, to be honest. So.
Well, Dustin, thank you for coming on, sharing with us your tips, tricks on the follow-ups. We definitely need that. You are probably the best at follow-ups that I know of. One thing that I do want to point out, guys, is, as you probably know, Dustin does it a whole different way than I do it, than a lot of people does it, than Jamie does it, right? The point is all you got to do is get the concepts across, right? We're just setting the appointment, or we're doing a one-call close. We're going through a presentation, and we're getting that client coverage, right? But what's different about Dustin than a lot of people is that Dustin takes massive imperfect action, right? He works his you-know-what off, right? And the reason why, or by him doing that, he helps 2 families a day on average, right? And so if you take massive imperfect action every single day, you're going to learn your own style. You're going to learn your own processes, and you're going to learn how to get better and better and better every single day. So
yeah, and I would say, if you're new at this, don't get too hard on yourself. Don't let your bad days drag you down. And I've been preaching this for a long time now, and I kind of made this quote up one day on another call like this, and now I preach it. You know, I always tell everybody in this industry, this is a mental and emotional roller coaster at times. It really is. It can really get to you sometimes, because being rejected for a whole day is not fun. I don't care who you are. And it sucks. Let's just call it what it is. It just sucks to be hung up on, told F off, leave me alone, you're a scammer, and calling you names. And that can get to your head, and it does eventually. I've had days where I've wanted to take my phone and whip it off the wall, and I would have been happier not having a phone anymore. Like, that's how bad I've had some days, right? And I think we've all been through that. And the thing is I always say, don't let your bad days drag you down, but more importantly, don't let your good days drag you down. Because what happens is, if you have a few good days in a row, you think it's always going to be that way. It's not, for one. Or if you see a bunch of nice big deposits come in, and you think, oh, it's okay, I can take a break. Well, no, you can't, because some of those, not right away, you know, build up a nice little nest egg. And then, of course, then you can. But I would say, you know, when your good days are going, keep them rolling, but just know you're going to hit that wall again. We don't Nobody has a good day every day, especially in this industry. But in any industry, you don't really. But in this industry, especially, you're going to have a lot of bad days. It's all about your mental toughness. So just build up that armor in your mind and don't let these people, get you down, because you're going to feel like, throwing your phone out the window sometimes. And, we all go through it, though. You're not alone in that feeling is kind of my point here. So, definitely just work your butt off, make the dials. Don't be scared. Keep making the dials. If you get rejected by 5 people in a row, doesn't matter. The 6th person, the 10th person, the last call of the night might be the one that is so appreciative of you calling them, and they're so thankful. Like, I've had that day where it was the whole day of me getting rejected, hung up on. Man, I was like, what am I even doing? Why am I even doing this job? Like, well, this is not fun, And then on the last call of the night, I ended up having a 2-hour conversation with this sweet woman who was so grateful I called. She told me, like, she was so appreciative. She's been wanting this. She didn't know how to go about it. My call was a blessing, she said, and all this. So it's like, and all those no's led to that yes, made it all worth it. And then I went to bed so happy that night. And think about this. I just had the worst day ever for like 10 hours straight. I had the worst day. And just to finish up with a sweet woman who was so grateful and happy I called, I got her protected. And this was a year ago, maybe. She still has the policy, so just like don't let if you're mentally tough and you learn how to hone in and control your emotions, then you're going to be great at this. If you let people who you've never met and probably might never even meet in your whole life bother you because they're angry that you're calling them, don't do this industry, I would say. Because you're going to get that day in and day out. It's just a part of the game. It's one of the parts of this job that you just have to accept. Once you accept it, okay, all right. I laugh now when people hang up on me or call me a mother effer or whatever they say. I just laugh now. I'm like, they don't even know who I am. So anybody who would have just called them, they would have heard the same thing. That's how I look at it. If Sean would have just called them, he would have probably heard the same thing. If Alex would have called him, he would have heard, she would have heard, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is, they would have heard the same thing. So that's the point, is that, we're all in this, this thing together. And, if you have a good upline or you have somebody you can reach out to, I had a bad day, I'll call Sean and say, Sean, man, I'm having, like, you need to help me out here. I'm having a bad day mentally, like nothing's going right. And they'll remind you, hey, think about how tomorrow's going to go. It's going to be way better than this. Can't get worse, or think of how your whole week last week went. You helped 12 families. It's okay, and if you need to reach out to somebody, just do it, because this is a part of it. It's an emotional and mental beating sometimes. Let's just call it what it is. But right. Everybody is here in this room right now for a reason. It's because you want to try to have financial freedom. You want to control your schedule. You want to work for yourself. You want to help families, and then ultimately you want to help your own family, and so that's why you're here right now. So nothing in life is ever going to come easy. If you want to go back and work at the supermarket, you can. If you want to go back and work at the bar, I was a bartender. I could do that. But I'd rather not, because I'm not a quitter. Some people quit. That's okay. Some people leave this industry, and honestly, I never blame them. I'm like, I don't blame you. Been there, 5 times this week I thought about it. But if you push through, the reward is much better, than the
right. Even in the middle of winter, spring is right around the corner, right?
That's it, man. That's it. Even on the darkest days, the light is going to come back. It's going to come back. So you just have to realize that. You just have to get through the hard days, because every single person in this room is going to have them, and then every single person in this room is going to have amazing days where you're like, this is the best job ever. Oh my God, I just helped like 5 families today, and it'll happen for you. It's happened for me. Sean's done it. We've all done it. And those are the days that you do this for, but you just have to know that you're going to have the good days where you're so happy you're doing this, then you start seeing deposits come in hooray, that's great. But you're going to have the really, really bad dark days, and they just happen. And I had them when I was in home, when I was going door to door. I used to door knock. I've done it. I've done everything in this industry so far that I think I could have done to see what works best. And for me, getting on the phones finally and honing my craft, to the one call close is what I think works best for me. But if you go in home, good. That's good. I did that. I enjoyed it, actually. I won't lie. I liked sitting with people, looking at people in the eyes, talking with them. I enjoyed that for a while. This feels more efficient to me, over the phone, dialing. You can, if that way you're not driving everywhere, if you get no showed at a house, that kind of stinks, right? Then you got to get back in your car and figure out where you're driving to next. I used to go just knock on doors. I just used to knock on doors. So right. Everybody in my final words here is everybody in this industry has their own journey. Yeah, all of you guys are going to have your own journey here. And it's going to be a good one sometimes, and it's going to be a bad one sometimes. It's going to be a great one sometimes, and it's going to be the worst day ever sometimes. But just know that that's going to happen. And if you can just accept that now, then you're going to be great. You're going to do just fine. You just have to realize it's part of the game. It's part of the game.
Well, thank you, Dustin, for coming on here. We're going to transition into role playing right now. I know it's late. It's already 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, and you guys can go if you want to, or you can stay and do some role play with us. I have permission to give away $500 of free leads to 2 people on here that have their cameras on and their hand up to do a role play. So who's going to be the first one to do the role play?
I'll do it.
Kelly, I saw Kelly put his hand up first.
I think Rebecca. I choose Rebecca. She's been engaged. Everybody has. Drake, thanks for all your good questions. Everybody who was on here, Matt, you were on here the whole time. Don Trey, all y'all. Thanks for being here. I have to go make that phone call now, but it was great talking with you guys. Sean, you can feel free to give them my email or my phone number. But I got to go and make this phone call now.
Chat, Dustin.
What's that?
Go ahead, put your phone number in the chat.
Okay, I'll put it in there. Just shoot me a text with your name to let me know who you were, because I get a ton of phone calls, as you might imagine. And if you have any questions or any other tips or tricks you want to hear, I'll do whatever I can to help you all out. But I'm going to go make this call and hopefully protect this family. Thank you, guys. All right, appreciate
Kelly,
it.
Go ahead, unmute. And I'm going to have you be the client.
Got it.
And then who wants to be I'll be the agent. Actually, you be the agent, Kelly, and I'll be the client.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, Sean, this is Kelly Gerards. I'm your senior benefit coordinator, just getting back to you about the form you filled out recently about the coverage you're looking for.
Who is this?
This is Kelly Gerards, your senior benefit coordinator. Did you have a pen and a papers? I got to give you some important information right away. Can you do that?
What's this about, sir?
You'd fill out a form requesting information regarding final expense coverage. Now, I don't know if this was for you personally or for a loved one or another family member.
When did I do this?
It's our bad. I mean, this fell in my lap. I'm the senior benefit coordinator. It looks like you did this about a month ago. So if you can do me a favor and grab a pen and paper, we can just get this out of the way and get the case closed. Can you do that for me, please?
Okay. How long is this going to take?
About 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Now,
I got to go. I got a doctor's appointment coming up. We got to leave for.
What time's your doctor appointment? It's currently, I see it's about 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. What time is your appointment?
I don't know. It's my wife's appointment, but she said we got to leave in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Do me a favor. Go ahead and grab that pen and paper.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is your cell phone, correct?
Yeah.
Can it receive a text?
You sure can.
Okay, I'm going to send you my digital credentials. Just going to have a picture of my mug, so you have a nice face to match to the voice that's speaking to you.
Okay.
It's going to have my national license number, national producer number, so that you can look it up in the state of Nebraska to verify that I am licensed in that state. And that
Okay.
license number is da 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 da. Okay. And you should have received that right about now, but I want you to write it down anyway. Okay. My first name is Kelly. That's Kelly.
Kelly. Okay.
Last name Gerard. I'm going to spell that one out for you. That's Ger, like George, Edward, Robert, Adam, Robert, David, Sam, Gerards. Did you get that?
I did.
Okay. Outside of your wife's schedule, now, were you requesting this for yourself or for another family member?
I don't remember filling out this form, sir.
Well, I get it. You know, a lot of times I don't even remember what I ate for breakfast 3 days ago, you know, and I apologize that you've probably been getting a lot of phone calls lately, but you were looking for information as far as final expense coverage, so covered your final expenses. Is that correct?
It might have been my wife. We had been talking about it, so maybe she filled it out.
Oh, well, okay, it's a good deal. So okay. Tomorrow's kind of iffy, skiffy. I've got a pretty full day tomorrow. I could possibly squeeze you in. What is you and what is the missus' name?
Bertha.
Bertha. Is she around right now? Or is she out working?
She's getting ready because we're about to walk out that door.
Okay. I got you. That's what you said before. So when do you think you and Miss Bertha are going to be available? I mean, what does your day look like tomorrow?
I don't know. I just do whatever my wife tells me to do, to be honest with you. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes, sir. I get that right. What do you like to do for fun?
Fish.
Trout, bass. Cool beans. You use lures or you just go, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, how else do you catch the fish if you don't use lures?
I don't know. When I was growing up as a kid, I used to use some worms. But at any rate, give me a shot here. Give me a good shot, because apparently your wife cares about you. And she cares about the family. You know, she loves you. So what do you think a good time tomorrow would be? And I could tell you if I got a slot for you and her to be around.
I don't know. Let me give you her number. You can call her.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm not here to be a pain in your, you know what. So I'm just here to help you. And I am the senior benefit coordinator to do the things the right way for you. And okay, what is her number, please?
402-999-9999.
Okay. Is Miss Bertha right there next to you?
Bertha!
Bertella.
I think she walked out the door.
She already walked out the door.
Yeah, I got to get going here, sir. Can you just call me tomorrow?
I'll do my best. I'm really busy. I'm just, you know, following up with if she filled out the information. It's pretty important for her to get this stuff done. Okay. So if I get a hold of you, great. If I don't, you know, I apologize. But because we're really busy, we're really backed up here. So if there's a time that you think that'd be good to call, we can set an appointment now. Otherwise, I'm just going to wish you a great evening.
I would just say probably tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, let me look at a couple things. Now, you say tomorrow afternoon, you're in Pennsylvania time zone. No, you're in Nebraska, so you're an hour. Okay. What are you looking at? Like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock?
Sir, I got to get going here. My wife is yelling at me.
I respect that, sir. I really, really do. So 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, what do you think is going to work around
Yeah,
best?
just give me a call tomorrow, okay?
Uh, about 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, what do you think, sir?
I have no idea. All depends on what the wife's got going on.
Okay, good deal. Well, the two of you have a really great afternoon, and God bless, and hopefully we'll talk tomorrow.
All right.
And I did text
Good
you
job, Kelly.
Yep, and I did text you my digital business card, so you have that as well. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Kelly, good job, man. I was being hard on you on purpose, right?
Why?
Right. So because that's how we learn, right? We don't learn by having it roses and rainbows, right? But we learn from objections, from adversity, right? So I wanted to be hard on you so we can get you to kind of think outside the box, figure out how to set that appointment. Couple of tips, drop some comments in the box, guys, to kind of help out Kelly, and just kind of give him some good advice. Tell him what he did right, tell him what he did that you think he can improve on. But a couple of things that I think that I would have done a little bit differently, Kelly, is I would have tried to pull that need out right away. For one, I don't like to say you filled out anything. And the reason why is because they always come back and say, I didn't fill out nothing. What are you talking about? So instead of saying that, I'll say that form that was filled out, right? That form that was filled out for those final expense and burial and cremation programs that are going on statewide right now, right? And then I asked you, what did I fill out, right? Because I was kind of combating it. I was giving contention, right? And so then at that point in time, I use a third-party reference. Most people, when you say most people, it's like the keeping up with the Joneses theory, right? Most people filled this form out because they want to make sure that they don't leave a financial burden to a loved one for a funeral or a cremation. Which one of those were you thinking about today? And now, usually when they fill out this form, what are they filling it out for? They're either filling it out because they want to cover somebody for a cremation or a burial. Very, very, very rarely you'll get some people that say, I want to donate my body to science, but usually they're not filling out the form for that, right? So it's either cremation or burial. And so there you can get them to say yes on any one of those. Either one they pick, you're moving forward, right? So again, let me say that one more time. Most people fill this out because they want to make sure they're going to leave enough money behind to a loved one so that they don't have to pay for a cremation or a burial. Which one were you thinking about today? I was thinking about a funeral. Okay, perfect. Now where I'm going to go from there is lead them down the path of talking about their beneficiary. Who'd be the one that would be your beneficiary, or the person picking up the pieces for you if you don't come home tomorrow, right? Perfect. So I'm putting it in a nice way, and then I'm also going to kind of bring it home into reality. What happens if you don't come home tomorrow, right? And then they're going to give me a name. And any name they give me, I'm going to learn about that name. Well, it's going to be Patricia. Okay, is Patricia your daughter or a granddaughter? Oh, that's my daughter. Okay, what does Patricia do for a living? Now I'm going to find out the need, and I'm going to get them to tell me what that need is. All I'm doing at the very beginning of the call is pulling out that need and finding out what they want, and then I'm going to lead them down a path to keep talking, right? Because we got to keep them on the phone for at least 30 seconds. We get past the 30-second mark, 80% of the time, you're going to be able to keep them on the phone forever, right? And so we're going to find that need. Look, Patricia, she's your beneficiary. What does she do for a living? Well, she works at Walmart. Okay. Is she married? No, she's single. Okay. So I'm sure she makes a decent income, but if she had to pay for a funeral, and a lot of times I just leave it right there and they fill in the blanks. And they'll just say, well, I wouldn't want her to have to pay for my funeral, or she wouldn't be able to afford it. right? Or sometimes I can even lead them down that path and say, I'm sure she makes a decent living, but if she were to have to pay for your funeral, would that be a financial burden to her? Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't want her to have to pay for that. Okay, well, I can help you out. Now I just go right into the credibility, and I'm talking about who I am. I'm a broker. I'm probably, I have about 30 plus carriers at my access, and moving on down the road, I'm sending my link over to them. I'm getting them to understand that I'm somebody, I'm probably the only one that is there to help them out. And I'm going to shop around for them, customize something that best fits their situation, their needs, but most importantly, fits their budget, right? It's going to fit right into their budget. Okay. Now they're going to stay on the phone forever. Okay. So I hope that helps out, guys. Kelly, you did a fantastic job. I was really, really, really tough on you. So good job, guys. Good job, Kelly. Good job.
Well,
okay.
I appreciate that. The one thing that I know I skipped on was a little bit about the credibility, the opening, and just establishing that fact, as well as a little bit of the warm up and getting to know them better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for. It's an open forum, and this is a no judgment zone. So you just earned your $500 worth of leads on that one. Who wants to go next? Rebecca. Rebecca's waving her hand. Okay. You're going to be the agent. I'm going to be the client, Rebecca.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm just going to make you up a name. John, this is Rebecca. I'm just getting back to you regarding the inquiry that was sent into my office looking for more information on life insurance programs here.
Oh, how you doing there, honey?
I'm well, John. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. What's this all about?
I received an inquiry here in my office about some I'm sorry, hold on. I received some information, inquiry here to my office that for more information regarding life insurance programs here in Hines County. I was calling to verify the information that was put down. I have your delivery address is 123 Longwood Street. Is that old or current?
No, that's current. I still live there right now, honey.
Okay, great. And it looks like you were born September 12, 1973. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. How'd you get that info?
Well, that information was sent over in the inquiry. So I just wanted to make sure that the information was correct. So basically, I work with the state regulated carriers, and I was calling, well, hold on. So I work with the state regulated carriers, and most people fill these out because they want to make sure that when they pass away, there are no burdens left behind, like burial, cremation, or maybe they just want to leave some money behind to their family. Is that what you were looking for, or something different?
Yes, ma'am. I don't want my wife to be able to have to pay for my funeral. I need to take care of that expense myself, ma'am.
Right, and I definitely understand that. That's typically why we get these type of inquiries. So now we're doing everything virtually, so it only takes about 10 minutes. Could you do me a favor and grab a pen and paper?
Okay.
I just want you to write down my information so that you can look me up and make sure I am who I say I am.
Sure, I got that pen.
All right. My name is Rebecca Lee.
Rebecca, is that with 2 C's and 1?
That's 2 C's.
Got it.
And Lee, 2 E's.
Got it.
My state producer number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That sounds like my phone number.
Are you on a textable number right now?
Yes, ma'am.
I can also send that to you in a text message.
Okay.
All right, so I just sent that over. Could you check to make sure you have it?
I got it right here, ma'am.
Perfect. So let's see. So I was calling to set up a time to run through the information with you today. Around what time would be a good time for you to run through this information?
Can we do it next week?
Next week, let's see, because we're kind of behind and I do see a lot of people. Do you happen to have time now? Would now be a good time?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I got to head out the door. I got me a prostate exam coming.
Oh, okay. Next week, what day would work for you next week?
Probably Friday.
Friday.
You got some time on next Friday?
Let me see, because I think I'm pretty swamped Friday. With morning, would it be Friday morning or afternoon? I'm pulling up my calendar now.
Be honest with you, I don't know. You just have to give me a call back at that time on that day, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, well, so in regards to that, I'll definitely give you a call back Friday again. You know, we've been super behind with the scheduling because everybody's, you know, trying to get theirs taken care of as well. But I can definitely try to squeeze you in Friday. Is this a good number to call you back on?
Yes, ma'am. This is my cell phone.
Okay, perfect. Well, John, I'll give you a call next Friday, okay?
Perfect. I'll talk to you later. Y'all have a good night now, you hear?
Okay, you too. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Rebecca, what do you think you could improve on?
Not being nervous, first and foremost.
That's okay. If you want, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, and I definitely should have did better on that scheduling at the end.
What else?
I'm not sure. You tell me. Let me see.
Drop some comments in the box for Rebecca. Let her know what she did good and what she needs some help on. So let me give you a couple of tips, Rebecca. One, first off, okay, the very first thing, you have got to memorize your script, okay? Otherwise, you're going to be going through these leads, paying money for leads, and you're going to fumble over what to say on your script, okay? The best thing you can do is take the time to burn it into your brain. Because what happens is if it's burned into your brain, you say your script to your dog, you look in the mirror and you say the script to the mirror, you say it over and over and over and over again. Say it 100 times and then write it down 50 times. Because you're going to create new neural pathways in your brain that's going to help you think about that script. Keep saying it over and over and over again until you're dreaming the script. That's what you want it to do. Why? Because when you get on the phones and you start saying your script, if you memorize it, it's automatically just going to come right out of your mouth and you won't even have to think about it. But when you're saying your script, they're going to give you some objections. And those objections is what you need to think about, because you don't know the objections that they're going to give you because it's in their mind, not yours. But you can lead them down a path so that you know the objections they're going to give you and be prepared for it. And that's when you start to learn your rebuttals, because after a while, everybody's going to tell you the same thing over and over and over again. But if you have to think about your script and then all of a sudden they say something to you and take you on an off ramp, Now you have to think about, okay, where was I at in my script? How do I get back to where I wanted to say? And then I got to go and, oh, I got to go set an appointment now. It kind of fumbles everything around, right? So the best investment everybody can ever have, anybody could ever have, is an investment in their self, in their mind, right? And this investment right here in this business, you're in the right vehicle to make you a lot of money, right? But if you think about an attorney or a doctor, they have to memorize things too. And they have to memorize a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. All we ask our new agents to do is to memorize their script. Why? Because then you can get the concept across a lot quicker, a lot smoother on the phone. Because when you're in the house and you're talking to somebody face to face, it's like a conversation, right? And you can read them, they can read you, you can feel their body language, you can see their body language, they can read your body language. But when you're on the phone, you don't have that. You don't have body language. The only thing that you have when you're on the phone with a client is your tone of voice. And the way it fluctuates, the way it stays monotone, all of that is purposeful. The space in between your words that you have, right? If they give you an objection and you answer really quickly, that's like pouncing on top of them. That tells them in their mind, they don't actually think about how it all works, but it just automatically tells them that, oh, she's got something to hide, or this doesn't feel right, right? But if you were to leave space in between your words and then come back or continue on or answer that rebuttal or continue on with your script, then that will help them feel more comfortable. And it's going to make you feel more comfortable. And so by you practicing your script, you're going to feel more confident. You're going to have better posture on the phone, and you're going to be able to get your point across more often. So I recommend, like, the next day, here's how your mind remembers things. Read it over and over and over again. Read it like 10 times and then say it out loud. Okay. And then say it out loud all the way through until you can remember it. Then think about something else. Come back 5 minutes later, read it, and then say it out loud. Then wait about 10 minutes, read it, say it out loud. Then wait about 15 minutes, put more and more space in between. Then go a half an hour, then go an hour, then go 2 hours, go 3 hours. The whole point is to get your brain to help recall that information, that script that you have designed for, setting the appointment or doing a one-call close, right? And once you do that and you memorize that, I promise you, you're going to get on here and you're going to do a role play and you're just going to kill it.
See, I think it happened that way because I didn't know if I wanted to just book an appointment or go with the one call thing. So that's what I was going to ask you, Sam. Like I see your comment, and I was going to ask, like, is that kind of what you mean? Because I was over here like, do I just want to book the appointment?
So the rule of thumb is like this, Rebecca. You always, when you're doing a telesale, you can always go for a one-call close, okay? And just like what Dustin was talking about, if they're available right now and you have time to do it, you don't have any appointments coming up, go ahead and close them right then and there. Just go with the telesale until during that time, they give you that objection that, look, I can't do that right now. I got to walk out the door, kind of like what I was talking about with Kelly. I got to leave here in like 15 minutes. Then at that point in time is when you go to set the appointment. Okay. That's kind of what I wanted to address second, right? When we set the appointment, we don't ever ask them what their schedule is. Okay. You want to set the appointment according to your schedule, not their schedule. Because you're the busy person. You're the one helping them, right? And if you're busy and you have to fit it into their schedule, they're more likely to show up for the appointment. But if you're just going to cater to them and set an appointment according to their schedule, then most likely they won't be there. Okay. Correct. The way we do that is we let them know, look, I don't have much time available tonight, but let me see what I got here. Ooh, I can squeeze you in at 5 o'clock, or I have a 6:15. Which one of those is better for you? And that's a multiple choice question. Okay. If I say, here's the difference, Rebecca. If I say I have a 5:30 open, does that work for you? That's a yes or no question. 50% of that answer could be a no, right? And so we want to try to leave the no's out of the way. We want to keep them saying yes.
So closed-ended question.
Yeah, so that's why we want to do a multiple choice question, right? Look, I got a busy schedule, but I can squeeze you in at 5:30, or I got a 6:15 available. Which one of those best fits you? Well, I can do a 6:15. Okay, perfect. What's a good email for you? I'm going to send you a text and an email confirmation. Okay, you get their email. Then what I usually do is I'll say, okay, make sure to have a pen and paper handy, because I'm going to go over some important information that you're definitely going to want to write down. Now, what did I do with that phrase right there? I just basically told them to be in a good spot, right? When you have a pen and paper handy, are you standing up? No. When you're when you're about ready for an appointment and they say grab a pen and paper handy, I guarantee you I'm not going to be writing in the air. I'm going to be writing on a table, and most likely going to be sitting down waiting for the call. So I don't have to tell them to sit down, because they're already going to be sitting down, right? So I just tell them to have that pen and paper handy, so that way they know that when I'm going to be on the call, that way they're sitting down, ready, waiting for me, right? Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create that busyness again. And by doing that, I'm just going to say, okay, I need to ask you a favor. Everybody wants to do people a favor, right? So when I ask them to do me a favor, now they're going to listen up. Oh, I got to do him a favor, right? And so I'll say, okay, I have about 3, and I act like I'm counting. I got about 3, 4 appointments ahead of you. So I may be running a little bit late. So if you can give me like a 15 to 30-minute window on both sides of that appointment, I would be very grateful. Now I'm going to get them to say, yes, you can call me anytime you want to. And this is how I do it. It's the last thing that they're going to say, right? So let me say that last part again, and I'll continue on. I need to ask you a favor. I have about 3, maybe 4 appointments ahead of you, so I may be running a tad bit late. So if you can give me like a 15 to 30-minute window on both sides of that appointment, I would be very grateful. But because I may be running late, but if I do get done a little bit early, I may call you just a tad bit early. Is that okay? Yes, you can call me. I'm going to be home. Okay, so they just basically told me, yes, I can call you, or I can call them, right? So they just basically said, yes, I'm going to be ready, sitting with a pen and paper, and you can call me because I'm going to be home, right? And so that's how you set a solid appointment. And 9 times out of 10, when you set an appointment like that, they're going to be home. Okay. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Yes, plenty.
Okay, perfect. So work on setting appointments. That's the first thing that I would do for you, is work on setting appointments. Okay. Once you get good at setting appointments, then you're going to go to those appointments and you can work on presentations at the time that they show up. Because when your brain focuses on an appointment, then a presentation all at once, and then you got to figure out which carrier to go with, it's kind of a little bit overwhelming, right? So we want to kind of focus you on one thing at a time. Set as many appointments as you can. All you got to do is set appointments. Don't worry about doing the presentation or anything like that, because that's what your upline or your manager or your team is there for. You do it on live dials, and your team is on there, and they'll help you with the financial inventory and help you know which carrier to go with and which policy to write. Okay, so that's the easy part. Okay, so just focus on setting appointments, memorize your script. That's step 1. So memorize your script, and then set as many appointments as you can. Just practice setting appointments. Tell yourself, I'm going to set 15 appointments in the next 2 days, and then go from there. Okay, that's step 1. Then out of those 15 appointments, just show up. Okay, know you're going to fail. That's okay. We fail forward, right? When you fail forward, you learn. Okay.
So
Good
I
job,
have a
though.
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
You say to set the appointments, but like, what if I get someone on the line? Because typically that's what I've been doing, trying to set appointments. And typically when I do that, nobody, like by the time it's time for the appointment, they don't answer. So in the instance, like the role play you and I just did, like I have them on the line, you know, so I guess what I've gotten from this Zoom tonight is maybe trying one call close, no, because setting appointments is
here's why I recommend just setting appointments, because you haven't memorized your script for setting appointments yet. You haven't memorized your script for even doing a one call close. And I'm assuming based off of that information that you haven't memorized your script for doing a presentation. Okay. So I want you to get good at one thing and then grow from there. Okay. Because that's how the mind works. You give it too much information all at once, then it overloads itself. Right. And I don't want to overwhelm you. I want you to succeed. And so the more appointments you set, and everybody's different. Like Josh Lockhart, he hates one call closes. He'll tell you till you're blue in the face that he does not do one call closes. And so he sets appointments all the time, right? So I'm encouraging you to set appointments first, okay? Remember, you just got $500 worth of leads, okay? So use those leads to practice. When you go out there or when you get on the phones, just worry about one thing, setting appointments. And the more appointments you set, that's going to lead you to more presentations. Okay. It's like setting a yearly goal and then setting 4 quarterly goals. What do we set our 4 quarterly goals for? To lead us to our yearly goal, right? So step by step, you got to take the first step and memorize your script. Then set as many appointments as you can. Then we can work on the presentations. Okay. But you have a team to back you up with the presentations. Just know that you're going to fail just like everybody else does. Grady Paulson failed. Andrew Taylor failed, right? Sean Mike failed when he first started. I failed. Everybody fails. It's okay. Fail forward. First time you rode a bike, you fell off. You got back on though, right? And that's what you're going to do. You're just going to keep getting back on the bike until you start riding. Simple as that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, what time is it? It's 9:34 Central Time, so that means it's 10:34 Eastern Time. Okay, we kind of covered a lot tonight, and we are way overboard. I don't want to keep you guys forever. We are going to finish up right here. You guys have a wonderful night.